Hey, it's Eric Arnold here in the Sports Barn, and this is our Super Bowl 57 special here on this Friday morning, the 10th of February. 2 days to go until the big game. Kansas City versus the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are anywhere between a 1 and 1.5 point favorite. Total is at 51. In case you're new here, the Sports Barn is squarely within the Philadelphia sphere of influence. We bleed Eagles green here in the Sports Barn. Go Birds. But money is money, and you got to be sure that you don't just bet on the home team because you like them, because money is money. So, we haven't been exactly lighting it up with our NFL picks here in the postseason. We had the Chiefs to be beaten by the Bengals. Obviously didn't happen. We had the 49ers to beat the Eagles. Didn't happen. Now, I will say this, and like Casey Stengel said, you can look it up. I did pick the Eagles to play the Chiefs in the Super Bowl before the season started. I'm probably one of the only people anywhere on the internet that did that. But that's how I saw it at the beginning of the season. And then, of course, I jumped right off of it once we got into the playoffs. So I guess that you dance with who brung you. That's a long-time lesson that we all forget over and over again. And I forgot it. And, of course, it bit me in the ass. I'd look like a genius had I just stuck to that in the championship games. But at any rate, I am picking some winners right now over in college basketball. And those picks are on the internet at a website called betstamp.com. Betstamp. Here, it's bet. Oh, Christ. Arm didn't turn that way. There you go. Betstamp.com. In our high-tech graphics here in the Sports Barn. The handle is Eric Arnold, all one word. That's the user you're looking for. Pull me up. You can see my picks. They're open to the public. We've got over 100 picks on the board here in this past 10 days, and we're hitting around 55%. So, hey, I'll take that any day of the week. So that's kind of got me feeling better about myself, making me feel a little more confident that I know what I'm doing. And I do know what I'm doing, for Christ's sakes. I mean, this is not my first rodeo. I am a pretty good handicapper. So I feel okay making this video. I got a pretty good read. And when I say pretty good, I mean a really good read on this game, the Super Bowl. We got the experience with the Chiefs, the venerable Andy Reid. He's been in I'm going to say this is his fourth Super Bowl. I think this is his fourth Super Bowl. He's got Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. This is his third Super Bowl. So you got to say the experience would be on the side of the Chiefs. Then you got Mahomes at quarterback. And we got to say he's the best quarterback. I mean, he was just named most valuable player in the league. And the guy just makes throws that other quarterbacks can't make. He gives the Chiefs another dimension on offense that other teams just don't have. So they've got an edge at quarterback. Experience-wise, they have an edge. So that's where we would be looking at the Chiefs. Now, on the Eagles side of the ball, and the Chiefs, you got to look at the Eagles. Who have they beaten? That's another thing if you're looking for the Chiefs. Who have the Eagles beaten exactly? They beat the Cowboys without Dak Prescott. They beat the 49ers without a quarterback. They beat the Vikings with Kirk Cousins, as if that's something that you should be proud of. Other than that, they've beaten a lot of just teams. So exactly who have the Eagles beaten? So there's that. And if you listen to the 49ers, well, you should pick the Chiefs because the Eagles just aren't that good, according to the 49ers, who lost 31-7. But that was because they didn't have a quarterback, right? If you missed it, the Eagles knocked the 49ers' only quarterback out of the game on the very first drive. How did that happen, 49ers? I mean, how do you not protect the only quarterback on your roster? How do you block Hassan Reddick with a tight end? I mean, I would argue that's just bad coaching, but that's not apparently the story out of the 49er camp. At any rate, so who've the Eagles beaten? Now, on the Eagles side, they're better, and that's who we're picking. Let's not bury the lead here. This is who we're picking, and this game will not be close. This is not going to be, oh, well, we're looking at a field goal, maybe a touchdown. No. This is a 2-score, probably 3-score win for the Philadelphia Eagles. This game will not be close. That's how I see it. Now, why would I say that? How can we possibly defeat the great Andy Reid and the magical Mahomes by anything, let alone a blowout? That's ridiculous. Well, here's how I see it. If you watched that Chief-Bengal game, that was a slugfest. That was like an old Steeler-Raider game. You know, these are two teams that are starting to work up a real rivalry between the two teams. And there was some hitting going on in that game. And the Chiefs looked just beat to shit. And if you want to say the Eagles got lucky in beating the 49ers without a quarterback, fine. You know, I can't argue the fact that it was a lot easier with some guy, what was it, Josh Johnson, who I had never even heard of this guy. He's been in the league 15 years. I've never even heard of him. And then they finished up with a guy with a torn UCL, having to bring him back when Johnson got hurt. So they really had no quarterback at all. So the Eagles basically got a bye into the Super Bowl. So yeah, okay, they got lucky. Well, I would argue the Chiefs got lucky too, in that if the Bengal guy doesn't take that 15-yard penalty there at the end of the game, that game goes into overtime, and I think there's a good chance that Burrow pulls it out, just like he always pulled it out against the Chiefs. So I would argue the Chiefs got lucky. So you got two lucky teams here. That's part of being good. Better be lucky than good, right? So you got two lucky teams in here. One team played its guts out to get there. Beat to shit. And that was the Chiefs. The Eagles are healthy as hell. They have a full deck. Pretty much everybody's going to play. I don't think they have one guy that's missing. I think that's a huge advantage. Mahomes, is he going to be 100%? Of course not. You do not come back off a high ankle sprain in 2 weeks. He played after just one. He didn't even take a week off. And if you saw him at the end of that game, he couldn't move around. He could just barely get here or there. He's hopping around. He's limited. Oh, well, he'll be better in 2 weeks. Not off a high ankle sprain, he won't. That's generally a 6 to 8 week recovery period. I think playing on that last weekend, or whatever, 10 days ago in the AFC Championship game, I think that puts him back to square one. His comment this week was, I believe, my ankle's in a better spot. Better than what? During the AFC Championship game? I mean, of all the things the guy could have said, I think that's telling. In other words, my ankle's in a better spot. Well, of course it's better. If you've rested at all, it's going to get better. It's not going to get worse. But he could have said, hey, the ankle's not a factor. I'm 100%. I expect to be able to do anything and everything on Sunday. I'm ready to go. No, all he said was my ankle's in a better spot. To me, that means this guy is still hurt. I don't think that's a question. So I expect to see the same Mahomes you saw in the AFC Championship game The guy was clearly limited. The Chiefs were able, for the most part, to keep the Cincinnati pass rush off of Mahomes. Here's a news flash. The Eagles' pass rush is a hell of a lot better than the Bengals' pass rush. So I think the Eagles are going to be able to hold the Chiefs' offense in check. Oh, they're going to score some points. Mahomes will do his thing, and he'll get out of some jams you never thought he could get out of. And Travis Kelce somehow will get open. It's like, they got like one guy we got to cover, and how the fuck, there he is again. He's open again. How does that happen? That'll happen. It always does. So they'll score a few points. But I think the Eagles are going to be able to hold those guys in check and not let them go crazy. They're going to get in there and sack Mahomes. That's going to happen. I think they're going to force a couple turnovers too. So I like that matchup. I don't think we're going to get killed there. We're going to hold our own. The Eagles defense will hold its own against Mahomes. Now the other thing there is the Eagles offense went up against the best defense in football in the NFC Championship game. There was nothing wrong with the 49ers defense, nothing. And the Eagles, for the most part, scored points. They were able to hold their own, if not win that matchup. There was a moment there in that game where the 49ers had tied the game and they've got their backup quarterback in, but the Eagles aren't playing real well and things are starting to get sketchy, and I'm getting nervous. They punted the ball to the Eagles. They had it, I believe, with it inside their own 10 with like 6 minutes to go in the second quarter. And the Eagles took it the length of the field and scored. Against the best defense in football, marched 90-some yards and stuck it in the end zone. To me right there, that said everything I needed to know about the Philadelphia Eagles, at least their offense. These guys, when the chips are down, they can move the ball on anybody. And the Chiefs' defense is a far cry from the 49ers' defense. I think the Eagles are going to dominate that line of scrimmage. The offensive line the Eagles have is the best in football. And I think they're going to have a field day with the Chief defense. After I watched that Bengal-Chief game, I just had the feeling of this was the Chiefs' Super Bowl. These guys had to beat the Bengals. The Bengals had made them their bitch. They were talking about renaming the Chiefs Stadium and all kind of just nonsense. The Chiefs had to win that game, and they emptied the tank to win that game. That was an exhausted team I saw at the conclusion of that game. Now you can say, oh, well, you got 2 weeks off. I don't know. At this stage of the season, I think exhausted is exhausted. And I don't think you're going to get it back in 2 weeks. Whereas the Eagles, I think this is a totally healthy, fresh, rested team. Will they be overconfident? I doubt it. I think this is a team that's going to be pissed because all they've had to hear about for these 2 weeks is how lucky they are that they got to play the 49ers with no quarterback. Who have the Eagles beaten? Oh, they beat Brock Purdy without an arm. Yeah, okay. It's like, well, we might have beat him, had he played healthy. We still might have won that game. So I think the Eagles are going to be totally motivated. If you want to compare motivation as far as, Andy's got a hard-on for this game because he wants to beat the Eagles, his former team. You always want to beat your former team. And Andy wants this game. Well, you know who else wants this game? The owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, Jeffrey Lurie. He doesn't want Andy getting one over on him and making it look like he made a mistake in getting rid of Andy Reid. So he wants this game bad. And that trickles down through the whole organization. You don't think that the Nick Sirianni knows that his boss has a hard-on for this game? This isn't just another Super Bowl to the Eagles or anybody. This is a huge game for the city of Philadelphia. We want to stick it to Andy because he stuck it to us for 15 years. And that's another thing as far as experience goes. How good is the Chiefs' experience? Mahomes' numbers in the Super Bowl are less than great. He has more picks than he has touchdowns. Andy Reid's MO for his Hall of Fame career is he beats the bad teams, he beats the mediocre teams. When he gets to the cream of the crop, he turns into a pumpkin. And I think that's what's going to happen here. So I see the Eagles simply dominating the offensive line of scrimmage, holding their own, if not winning the defensive line of scrimmage. If you could do that right there in football, that's 3/4 of the game. If you could control the game in the trenches, you're going to win. So I really don't see this game being close. I don't think that the Chiefs are going to be able to hold up to the Eagles' offense. I think kind of what's going to happen at some point, the Eagles are just going to come downhill on the Chiefs and score like 21 straight points, and that'll be the game. It'll be touchdown, punt, touchdown, turnover, touchdown, and something like that. And then the Eagles will do what they do. They'll play trestle ball and take it to the locker room. So now another thing that looked interesting to me was the over-under number. Now, I hardly ever touch these just because it's just not what I do. I have a hard enough time figuring out who's going to win, let alone figure out how this game's going to be played. But I saw it at 51, and I thought, that is just too high. It feels just too high to me. I went through the numbers. The average number of points that the Eagles scored points scored in all the Eagles games in 2022 was around 45, or I got that backwards, I think, 43. I think the Chiefs' average number was around 45. The average number of points in the Eagle and Chiefs playoff games, 43. I don't know why suddenly we expect these two teams to get together and there just to be an explosion of points. It's like, well, wait a minute. Both teams do have defenses. I know the Eagles' defense is good. I don't know how good the Chiefs' defense is, but the Eagles' defense is damn good. And it's healthy. They've got a full deck. And I expect the Eagles' defense to play pretty well on Sunday. I do not expect this to be one of these, God damn it, stop them! Games like the 2017 Super Bowl, where Tom Brady threw for 500 yards on the Eagles' defense, and he still lost. I don't think it's going to go like that. I think the Eagles' defense is going to show up on Sunday. Now, will the Eagles score 40 points on their own? Probably not, just because I think the Eagles are going to do what they do. They like to run the ball. The Eagles run the ball a lot. And their MO is they get a lead. They've scored more points. I think I'm right on this, but you could double check me. I think they've scored more points than anybody in the league in the second quarter. That's generally how their MO is. Get a lead. Maybe if they catch lucky and get the opening drive out of the halftime, build it up, and then just take the air out of the ball. I'm from Ohio State. That's my alma mater. We used to have a man in that town named Jim Tressel. Great coach. We won a lot of games with this guy. Won a national championship with him. And he had a system we loved to call Tressel ball, where we would get a lead and then just take the air out of the ball. Psst. It would look like shit, and everybody would get nervous in the fourth quarter as the other team's catching up to us. We never lost those games, ever. But we would keep the score down because we're not really trying to score. We're trying to win. Tressel ball, you can think of some people like, say, Kyle Shanahan. See, I'm getting old, and I do things like that. Kyle Shanahan, in the Super Bowl where he had a 28-3 lead on the Patriots and somehow inexplicably lost that game. That's because he does not know what Tressel ball is. Jim Tressel would have never lost that game. Now, you could argue Jim Tressel would have never been up 28-3 to begin with, but that's a different argument. At any rate, this is all basically my argument for taking the under, in that the Eagles know how to hold the lead, and they're going to play it safe if they get up a number of points, which I expect them to. And I don't think the Chiefs are going to score that many points. I really don't. They're going to get some, but I don't think they're going to get a lot. So that under looks pretty attractive to me at 51. Really does. Now, these prop bets, I guess you got all kind of prop bets. I don't know. To me, I think you're pretty safe just taking any tailing, i.e. betting, any pro-Eagle prop bet, betting against any pro-Chief prop bet, anything like that I think you're okay with. That's, I don't think you need to get too deep into the weeds here on this one. But, yeah, I mean, I just think the Chiefs are beat to shit right now. And I don't think you're going to get their best game, whereas I think the Eagles are primed to play a very, very good game. And this is an excellent Eagles team. This is the best Philadelphia Eagles team I've ever seen. And I've watched the Eagles, well, how old am I? 55. For 55 years. All right, that's not exactly true. I started to get into the Eagles, I would say, in 1977, certainly 78. I remember that season pretty well. I went outside. I was so pissed when they lost to the Giants at the Meadowland. It's like, God damn, I cannot believe. I think when I was 10 years old, I did say, God damn. I probably matured earlier than most kids. But I was so angry that we had lost to the Giants. So I went out to throw the Nerf football around the yard, and my parents are telling me, the Eagles scored. They come out and get me. The Eagles scored. The Giants fumbled. And I was like, the Giants fumbled? How could they fumble? The game was over. And I come back in, and here the Eagles have won at the Miracle of Meadowlands, where Herm Edwards scoops the ball up, and I don't believe it. Touchdown Eagles. So I did watch that game. So I'm going to say 78's my benchmark for how long I've been watching the Philadelphia Eagles. This is the best team I've ever seen the Eagles have. It does it all. It can do it all. It plays defense. It's got a good quarterback. It's got a great offensive line, something we've struggled with historically in this town. The defense is pretty good. Pretty good. The field goal kicker is good. The only thing we got is we don't have a real good punter. And I don't expect that we're going to punt the ball a hell of a lot on Sunday. So I think the Eagles are just going to grind the Chiefs down. I don't think the Chiefs can stop our offense. We're going to control the line of scrimmage. If we get beat, I would say it's just going to be a random deal. We've turned the ball over. The quarterback gets hurt. Things you just can't really control. Or possibly something I took for granted didn't happen. Maybe say the best offensive line in football is going to pick Sunday to become old. And that'll be the day that they're all just too old and they're exposed and Hurts has rushed off his feet. I don't think there's a chance in hell of any of that happening. But I guess that's possible. So at any rate, there's what we're looking at. I would take the under. My final, 31-14 Philadelphia Eagles. That's how I see it. So it is written. So it shall be done. There's your champions right there, the Philadelphia Eagles. Looking forward to a big parade next week. What else do we got going on? The World Baseball Classic. Did you see those rosters for this thing? Man, this is like a who's who. This is an all-star thing. This is like an all-star game where people actually care. We may have to pay attention to this because I didn't see, it looked like a who's who of who's anybody in baseball. And that'll be competitive. It'll be very interesting. The United States has a good team, but then, of course, you're looking at the Dominicans, and that's a really good team. So hard to say. We'll have to pay attention to that once we're past the Super Bowl on Sunday. But, yep, we're looking forward to a big parade on, well, maybe next week sometime in Philadelphia. Looking forward to that. I'm Eric Arnold. I believe in free speech. Eagles! Eagles! Go Birds!